Welcome back to another video. My name is Nikos. Today we're talking taxes, Google taxes, AdSense taxes. So say you have your channel finally monetized, you got to go through a whole bunch of steps, especially if you're not living in the United States. And this is specific to Canadians and more specific to corporations. I've seen a lot of videos, a lot of people cover different aspects of doing your taxes, but I haven't seen a lot for corporations. So I will be walking you through the idea of what you would do to get it on the personal side, but this is more specific to corporations. Now, before I start this whole journey, I got to say, it's been crazy. I've been going back and forth with Google, with a tax accountant, with my lawyer, just to make sure I'm doing everything correctly. I don't want to get stuck in a situation where they keep 30% of my money and then I got to wait for the next follow-up year in order for me to actually get my money, because you can still get your money. It's not like you're not going to get the money. It's going to the IRS. The IRS is keeping it, and you just have to apply to get it back with another tax form with your accountant and this and that. And it's a headache you don't want. So I'm trying to do this properly. So I do advise everybody to look at their situation. If your personal account, or if you're looking at it from a business account and saying, all right, I'm going to go talk to my accountant and make sure I'm selecting the right things and then move forward. So I'm going to be selecting the best case scenarios of what I have found out. Now, everybody's giving me some form of information that's a little bit different, and nobody's 100% concrete on this. And at that, I submitted all my forms once, and they get back to me and they're like, no, like it's, you need this and this and that. So I'm going to be explaining that after I do a walkthrough with you guys, so you can see how that shapes up. Now, why would you want a corporation? Why am I in the situation where others aren't? You start a YouTube channel. You could just start it because you're just like, let me start a YouTube channel, and then all of a sudden it starts making growth and money starts to come in because you're going to do the AdSense. And if you're personal, you just register it under your personal name, and you would get everything going forward with the tax formations based on your personal. Now, eventually, if you start making a lot of money, you'd want to incorporate. So you're probably going to be doing this again with a corporation, because most likely if this gets going on YouTube, you should be looking at how am I going to make more money. And at that point, you want to look at a corporation to see how that's going to work, or a small business. In Canada, you could do a sole proprietorship as well. But if you start to grow, why not do an incorporation right off the get-go? So you'll be walking through that second part. So the idea of corporation, most people will be in a situation where maybe they're a coach, maybe they have a certain product line, maybe they have some kind of business. They started making videos, and then all of a sudden they are able to do AdSense. So you'd want to put this under your corporation, so it separates it. What's the difference between the sole proprietor and the corporation? Well, really, personal, if you're collecting money, personal or sole proprietor, it's going into the idea of small business attached to your name. So when you do your taxes, say you're making $50,000 at your regular job, and then you make like a good 10 grand with YouTube, well, that's going to be $60,000 on your personal income. So your tax bracket will go up. But if you have an incorporation, well, then basically the money goes into the corporation. You're going to pull out what money you need to pull out. In most cases, you're going to be making enough money to cover your expenses, if that, at the beginning. So say you buy a camera like this, this setup is like 8 grand right there in Canadian. So then you sit there and you go, oh, okay, so now that 10 grand I can offset with my expenses and keep that very close to small amount of taxes on that, and then pull out whatever money I need for myself, or just leave it to reinvest back into the business until you start growing and making enough money to be able to pull out either dividends or do some other form of payment as an employee and move forward that way. So the idea would then be, what do you do in these steps? So let's jump into the first aspect of this and just walk you through the personal. You're going to get a message saying withhold of 30% tax will occur on payouts unless you submit your tax forms. So we're going to go ahead and start this. It's going to take about 15 to 20 minutes if you know what you're doing. If you don't, go through it once. Do not submit everything, but make sure you have all the information. So that's what I have been doing. And really it's because it's a lot of information that you may or may not know. So here is the individual or the non-individual entity. So I'm going to select individual, and this is for the individuals. Now, are you a citizen of or resident of the United States? No. We're going to click next, and it's going to ask me, hey, which form do you want to submit? So this is where you would want to look at it and say, which one fits me best. And in most cases, it's going to be the 8 bend, but make sure you contact an accountant or somebody else if you don't know which one specific to your situation. Now, when you enter here, it's going to ask you for your tax identity. So the name of the individual is me, Nikos Rentas, and then it's going to say optional to add a doing business as. So in this case, if your channel is different than your name, you would want to replace your full legal name and then doing the business as. You would then add your country, which would be Canada. And then from there, it's going to ask you for the foreign TIN or the foreign ITIN or SSN. So this is the tax identification number. So this is where you would be putting your social insurance number as a Canadian. Your social insurance number is what we use to track our, daily job activities here in Canada. You get this when you're young, when you start working, and you use the SIN there. Now, when you don't have to add it. However, where is it going to apply? So when you go through and you add your address, you'll get to this page where it says, are you claiming a reduced rate or withholding under tax treaty? Yes or no. So clearly we're doing this because we are. We're going to select that we're a resident of country region claiming treaty with the US. And again, we're going to go back to Canada. And then from there, it's going to ask you the different types of rates you want to select. So in this case, what's going to happen is we're going to go to each article. We're going to pick the lowest amount based on that treaty. And of course, you want to review these, make sure you know 100% you're selecting the right ones. And this is where your social insurance number and that tax identification number has to be filled out if you want to do this copyright royalties. So again, you're going to have to add it there, and then you would click next and you would walk through the rest of the process. Again, the idea here would be that you're looking at it from a perspective of each section. What is your channel going to be doing and how is it going to be working? Putting your social insurance number here allows the form to be created properly so that you are able to then claim the different types of rates on that treaty, and you're good to go. Now, if you're a business, you'd be picking this non-individual entity. And in this case, is Nico's Rentas a DBA, doing business as name, or a disregard entity? So in this case, you would click on this little I, and it's giving you your information. As doing business as DBA name is a company name different from the owner's name. A disregard entity is a business entity that has a single owner, isn't a corporation under U.S. tax law, and is not considered an entity separate from its owner or U.S. federal income tax purposes. So you'd be selecting this if your channel is different. And for my case, my legal name is different than my corporation, than my YouTube channel / my account channel. So I did get some emails, which I'll show you at the end. And the idea was I did it without a DBA because I don't have that in my articles of incorporation. I do have other names that I use for the name I'm using. So what does DBA really stand for, and how does it work with the articles of incorporation in Canada? If you say, call your company, in my case, I have a company called Satner. So Satner would be saying, all right, what else do you do business as? In the articles of incorporation, I'm able to add those other names so that I can put my business number on there. And then with the business number, I am now able to just use that doing business as name instead of the full corporation name. If not, you do have to provide the corporate name, the official one, and then people would question, okay, well, why is this being taxed under a different corporate name? And it gets annoying. So things that you just want to make sure you verify with your tax accountant, you verify with your lawyer, making sure that everything's good, or just call the CRA and just make sure you're covered in everything you're doing. Now, if you don't click this, or you do click this, one way or the other, you're going to see this on the next page. Is your entity organized or incorporated in the US? We're going to click no here. We're going to click next, and then it's going to ask you for which tax form are you filling out for the W-8 version of these tax forms. So most cases people will use is W-8 Ben E. Now, and you need to look again at your company type. You need to look at how you're doing business, and you need to select the right one. So your accountant will tell you which one is the right one there. Once I click next, you will see the tax identification information. So first things first, you're going to put the name of the organization, which would be your corporation. And then you're going to go over to the doing business as. Again, the communication I've had with Google is this would be my account name. So my account name is not the same as the incorporation papers, where it's my full name, my legal name, and thus we're going to be just putting in what the channel's name and what I use with my shorter form name. We're going to fill out a Canada, and then it's going to ask us what kind of business are you? So for us, it's a corporation. Now, again, there's so many different ways to become a business in Canada. And you could be falling in one of these different categories. And based on what you are, you need to make sure you understand which one you are. So this is, again, if you don't know it, you got to ask your legal or accounting specialist. So we're going to select corporation, which is going to be most people. And then here's your foreign tax ID number. And then there is the US EIN number. So this number here, there's different people who have stated different things here, and it's all based on what kind of business you have. In most cases, I'm federally incorporated with this corporation. So what I'm going to be using is my business number. Now, this business number will also include the RC0001 in there. So what we're going to be doing is adding the business number and making sure that we do have the RC0001 in there. So I looked up other tax forms where this has been done, and it did include the RC0001. It's something that a lot of people ask from all the different questions I've seen from different videos. So I did see it there, and that's why I'm writing it. If it gets a kickback and it says, well, this number, I'll let you guys know by the end of the video. We're going to click next, and we get to the address. And once we fill that out, yes, we will be claiming, and we are a resident of Canada. And then it's going to ask us this question here. And we're going to say, so basically here it's asking you, what kind of business operation are you doing? In most cases, I believe people will be selecting the third or the fourth one here, company with an item of income that meets active trade or business test. Now, the idea here is everybody will be different based on the corporation. You got to look at how you're doing business, and then you got to go look this up. So there's a whole bunch of different ways you can look up this information. I did go through Google Payment Center Help. I did look up different things there, but you can go over to the IRS. You can start looking up information there, search it out to see how it applies to your company. And as you click through, there's so many different information here. It's crazy. And there is a Canada tax treaty document, so that I will put the link down below so you know what that is about. Of course, there's new limitations, benefits, provisions in Canada tax treaty. I'll provide this link. It's by Jim Wilson here. He's a partner at this company. He's out of Ottawa, so I will provide that as well. Last but not least, as you look at different companies like Desjardins, they will have information about how your social insurance number, let me zoom in on this, how your social insurance number will be the TIN, and then if you're a business, it will be the business number. So I did find several places where they identify this way, and then I confirmed with some legal paper I had from something else. This link here is the tax treaty limitation on benefits. They walk you through the different types of erosion tests, the benefits test. So this is a good link that I'll provide below that will be able to just clarify some stuff. And I mean, it might be over your head. And it was like kind of with me, it was kind of, I had to sit there and really read everything and go through everything. And it's a lot of work. You might want to just skim over everything. So when you ask your tax accountant or your lawyer about this information, you know at least enough to have a good conversation, so you don't look like, hey, just, you know, like for me personally, when I go talk to these guys, I find it much easier to have this relationship where I can talk to them. It saves time, energy, and money altogether, and then you don't have to sit there and wait for them to go and research everything, come back to you. You can ask specific questions, and it makes things so much easier. Looking at the special rates, it's the same thing as before. We're going to select our articles and paragraphs with the reduced rate in each case. And then, of course, we will make sure that we pick the right ones, confirm it. Do not just move forward without confirming it, because this is going to be a heck of a lot of work to change, similar to picking what type of business, because which test you're doing, because if you do that wrong, and time goes by, what my legal team asked is, you know, do you know 100% XYZ? Because if these forms are wrong, then things start moving. But if they do a review or an audit or whatever, and they find issues, you might see all of a sudden one day, it's just going to be like, oh, my 30% was taken off. Why? And then you have to repeat this process and then claim that money later on. It's annoying. So we finish that off. We go into the next step here. You will get that you need to confirm everything. So what you need to do is download each and every one of these and review them to make sure they're correct before you hit next. Now, these will be PDFs that pop up. They'll give you your information, and you'll make sure that everything's good to go. So I've already reviewed them, and now we move forward. Certification. You're going to enter your full legal name, and then from there, I certify that I have the capacity is signed for the legal entity identified, and we are off to the races to finish off the last two pieces: activities and services performance in the US. Okay, this question is just basically if you click the I. If you select no, you certify that Google doesn't pay you or your organization for services performed in the US. So we're gonna go with no here. I certify that the services provided by Google or its affiliates will be performed solely outside of the US. Yes, I'm not in the US. I'm not doing anything there. Status change affidavit. I'm providing tax info for new or existing payments or existing payments profile. This is for a new one. Here, it's asking for that information. So I'm going to click next here, and I accept the paperless delivery agreement, and we are good to go to submit this. And here we are finally approved, and we are good to go. Everything will be claimed in the process that needs to be claimed in, and we are happy with that. I guess there's going to be a document that's issued with a date issued time, but nothing is, no tax reporting documents on file yet. So I guess they're going to do what they have to do and finish that process off. So the step-by-step approach is very simple. Now, what could happen where you have a situation where it wasn't approved, and what is happening in that situation? So let me just walk you through what the first few times happened for me. I made this video like 5 times now. So let's look at this. Now, if you do get this in review, you're going to be waiting to see what is occurring with regards to them reviewing. And what they'll generally do is send you an email. And this email will tell you a broad perspective of what you need. Your account shows Nikos Rentas, but then you're saying that your tax forms are Saturn Corp, and you need to resubmit more tax forms. So the thought process then becomes, I did submit some of my forms from the corporation, legal stuff, and they're like, no, your account name is wrong. So I'm not sure why they don't just say that. Okay. And the idea is very simple. I communicated back and forth with them, and again, they came back and they're like, they highlighted it, doing business as. Okay, so you may enter that in the appropriate section. So the thought process here is that when you create an account with Google, the name you're using is your official name. That's what they want here. And then from there, you can change and do, nickname. But when you do the nickname, it doesn't show the nickname everywhere, or else I would. So basically, I want to go with Nikos Rentas. My big name is Nikolaos. It's just like this long Greek name. And it's like, I don't want to use that. But it doesn't apply for everything. So it's very annoying. So I don't use that. I just use Nikos Rentas. Now, in almost everything else I've done, doesn't matter what other programs I've been in or whatever, I've never had an issue with this. I just supply the documentation for it, and then we're good to go. But for some reason with AdSense, they want it to be specific. So now you got to take a step back. You got to look at this and you got to say to yourself, okay, how do I get around this? And it's this doing business as is clearly what they want, even though my business isn't doing business as that. So I will have to update my articles of incorporation. So they do go out and say, hey, you should visit a professional tax advisor to explain this to you. I have. They're like, this is what we would not do. So basically, legally from Canada, that's not what they've told me I should be doing, but here we are. We're going to do this, and then we're going to go a different route. So what you would want to be doing then is just deleting this file. You remove your tax information, and it may affect your payout. To provide your tax information, you'll need to start another form. So I would just go ahead and delete this. And now I'm going to go back in there, and we're starting off at the add tax info so we can start the process again. As you can see, there's a lot of steps to this, a lot of information that you have to find out. I recommend everybody walk through it, figure out what every question is, what every selection is, and make sure you have the information when you finally decide to go through it, because there is a time limit on it and it doesn't show you the time limit. And then when you reach the end, and if you haven't filled it out within the time, it's like, oh, start over. And it's annoying. It's annoying. At the same time, going through it based on where you are at, individual corporation, the type of corporation, you want to get that information. Go talk to your accountant. Go talk to your legal. Ask them, hey, what should I be doing in this case? And what is my setup for the future? This is where you want to have that conversation. What's my setup for the future? So how does this shape up? Because as you grow your business, and as you grow, going from personal to business, or business to, full corporation, and from corporation to other corporations, because there are so many things you can do, i.e. you can look at all your camera gear you'll buy over the next couple years doing YouTube, and you can put them in a separate corporation if that's doable. This is where your tax accountant will come into play. So as I'm getting more and more equipment and I'm building out the marketing side of all this other stuff that we've been doing with my other company, now it's like, okay, how do I balance it? What do I do? I got to see my tax accountant to get that information. I might know it. I know the process. I know what to do, but I don't know the ins and outs, the specifics on one end. On the other end, I'm biased. And that is where you're sitting there going, well, who's better at this? Me, who knows this stuff, or the tax accountant who does it every day and knows about this stuff and knows. Okay. On the other end, like I'm looking at this and saying, maybe this is a time, if you've reached this pinnacle, to join some groups, both YouTube side and business side. Find some groups that you can relate to that are similar to you and get going on conversations with those people to see what they're doing with their businesses. How is it shaping up? So when you do have the conversations with the tax specialists and the lawyers, and you're spending $200, $300, $400, $500 an hour, you want to make sure that you're having quick, right to the point conversations so you can really get the answers you need and not spend an arm and a leg. Right? So there's a point where it's like an investment and then turns into a spend because you're taking up too much time. And at that point, I'm looking at it from a perspective of find individuals that are going to be able to guide you. That's what you need. Okay. Guidance. I'm personally launching a new whole program for starting a business through Mentors Approach with a whole bunch of courses. And I want to make the environment there for everybody coming into the community to be able to get information so they can have guidance. I'm not a tax specialist, but I am able to guide people in the right way. So I'm not advising people, but I'm coaching them through that process. And that's basically how I'm creating mine so that everybody can get the help they need, go talk to who they need to, and then move forward. Now, in some cases, you'll find I've been in some groups where people are like, I know this, go do this, this, and this. And the question is like, how much do you actually know, right? I know I can sit down and go through a business plan. I create business plans for clients. So I can look at numbers and I can calculate everything, but I always have an accountant that I hire to review all the numbers to make sure everything's going smoothly and accurate, because I need that specialty in there and I pay for that specialty because I'm not a specialist in that. I have other specialties that I'm good at. We need to balance this and balance our budgets to make sure that we have everything we need to grow our business. And who knows, maybe one day you're going to have YouTube going up to like 30, 40, 50,000, 100,000, 200,000 subscribers. You're getting all these views, all this money coming in, and you have offshoots of different sources of income. And then you're like, how do I differentiate this? And how do I really take a good opportunity to hire more people and grow this business? So this is where having that team of people around you and getting the advice you need, the guidance you need, getting that push towards the direction you need is there. And you have that idea of team behind you. My name is Nikos. Leave a like below if you like time I spent on this and this was valuable. If you have questions, leave them below. And of course, do hit subscribe. Check out these 2 videos too.